Welcome, everybody, to Mom Street USA. My name is Jackie, aka Wishes Mama, and I am joined for this hub episode by our good friends Duck and Jess, aka Beanie Duck. And you have found episode 4 of our Universal series that we have been making our way through with our hub episodes with Duck and Jess. And for this episode, we are going to be focusing primarily on the attractions and rides at all 3 of the Universal parks. So we gave you an overview in episode 1. And then episode 2 was resorts and tickets. And episode 3, we talked about special events in Volcano Bay. So if you missed any of that, hop on back to those. They are available on our feed wherever you may be listening. But today we're talking about the attractions and the rides. And I'm excited to hear what Duck and Jess have brought for us this episode. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Yeah. Very excited to talk about everything Universal attraction. I'm so excited. We have been talking about it like in the lead up to it. I'm thrilled. This is like my favorite topic of discussion. So
Yeah.
again, like I said last episode with Halloween Horror Nights, I will try my best to be normal about it. I really, really will.
Thorough, a little maybe too thorough, that's just how we roll over here.
Right.
So
I want everybody to know, as long as this episode is going to be, I cut so much out of these notes. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, it could have been hours longer.
I believe it. I totally believe it. So that being said, if there's more information that you're looking for that we don't cover in this episode on the attractions, please reach out to us and Duck will be happy to info dump everything on you.
Please reach out.
So you
I
can
want someone
find
to
us.
talk to.
You can find us momstreetusa@gmail.com or at momstreetusa on several social media platforms. So reach out to us if we don't cover something that you're waiting to hear on this episode, because we are going to do our best to highlight 1 to 2 attractions per area. So we're not going to go in depth on every single thing they have to offer, but our goal is to try to give you a feel for what the offerings are like at Universal. Again, the whole purpose of this series is for you to determine if Universal is the right park for your family, your travel party, you yourself to visit. So that is the overarching goal, trying to show you what ages are good for what attractions and what areas, and to really show that Universal is good for all ages, despite there being kind of a stigma out there that it's not. So that is the goal for today. Hopefully we achieve that goal in a somewhat timely fashion. So that being said, let's jump into some overall stats about Universal. What do you guys have for us?
All right. So these are just some very high level stats as to numbers of coasters, things like that. So across the 3 Universal parks, there are 12 coasters or rides that are classified as coasters. They can be various intensities, right? You have some very family friendly ones that are intended to be like those intro junior coasters. And then you have something like Velocicoaster, which is intense. Let's say it's intense. There are also 8 motion simulation rides. There are 21 rides that are classified as other, depending on who you ask, other, right? So it's basically things that aren't in either of those 2 categories. You have carousels, dark rides, teacups, various water rides from log flumes to like rapids type rides. So that is the quote unquote other category. They also have 5 kid-centric play areas, with 2 of those being Splash, but actually 3 of those, because there's one in Epic. I almost forgot about that one. So there's now the third. It's in Celestial Park. And there are more meet and greets in Universal than I think people realize that there is, right? Think about how much Universal owns, and there's a good chance that there is a meet and greet for it, right? You get The Simpsons, you get excuse me, you get the Invisible Man now over in Epic Universe. I'm sure everybody's seen different videos. It's been like super popular on social media. There's Poppy from Trolls, there's Shrek characters, there's Gru and various minions, Scooby-Doo. Like, they own so many things, and a good chunk of those properties have some sort of meet and greet associated with them. So before we actually jump into discussing the rides, again, I'm going to be very normal about all of this. Before we jump into our discussion, just 2 quick housekeeping notes up top. There was no great place to put either of these things, but they were important for us to include. So one is that Universal has a rule for rides for kiddos that are under 48 inches. There has to be some sort of supervising companion with them on every ride. Now, it's up to the team member's discretion whether like an older sibling can accompany them or it has to be an adult. Usually for like the coaster type situations, it has to be an adult. But for something smaller like a carousel or something like that, usually older siblings are okay. So, just something to keep in mind as you're planning your day and maybe what you're if you have an older and younger kid, what they'd be interested in together. So you can sit on a park bench for a couple minutes and let the kids take care of themselves for 5 minutes. Or if you do actually need to accompany them on the ride.
Yeah, that's so interesting because Disney does it by age, right?
Yeah.
So 7 and older are able to ride alone, but you still have to have someone 14 or older supervising you.
I think the reason why they did that, I believe once upon a time it was age, but it is very hard to tell a child's age
Mhm.
sometimes. And so I think having the concrete measurement is the easiest way for them to sort of be able to
Right.
discern like you are above or below this metric of being able to ride by yourself.
Right. Well, and they have so many more what I would consider thrill rides when you compare straight to Disney, so that makes sense. But this literally happened to us on my last family trip. My son, who is 8, and my daughter, who is 6, and I were riding Barnstormer. My husband does not ride Barnstormer because it is a very uncomfy ride for a man that is his size. He's 6.
Anyone over 5'6", it's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah. He's over 6 foot, so that's not going to happen. But the cast member at Disney did have to ask him how old he was to make sure because he was riding in front of my daughter and I. But they knew that I was behind him, so he was allowed at 8 years old to ride in his seat by himself on that one. So
interesting.
it was very interesting that because I was kind of like, well, I don't know what's going to happen when we get up there when there's only 3 of us riding. Let's go find out and see what they say. So yeah, that was interesting. But it is interesting to know that Universal does it more by height, but I
Yeah.
guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Disney, if you've probably seen these unfortunate videos along social media where people are getting their kids to lie about their height or their age or whatever to try to game the system throughout Disney. And you could still do it with height, but it is a little bit more difficult.
Right.
Like you really have to go out of your way to do it versus just telling your kid to lie about their age. So I think having that concrete measurement was probably why they were like, okay, if this kid's going on this coaster, we need to
Right.
make sure that they are with
Right.
a supervisor in some
For
capacity.
sure.
So
Yeah, I don't blame them on that at all.
nope, 100%. Okay, so now other housekeeping item that is slightly different but always gets brought up in discussion of Universal, and that is their locker situation. Totally different from anything we were just talking about, but very important because Universal does not allow any bags or any loose articles on pretty much any ride. I think there's one or two rides where they'll kind of look the other way, but things like Velocicoaster, it straight up has a metal detector
Yeah.
that you have to walk through to make sure that you don't have keys, wallet, phone, glasses, like sunglasses, to make sure that they actually won't even let you ride with like just loose glasses on your face because of the way, the speed, and the fact that a lot of these coasters go over like walkways of the park. So for your safety, you cannot bring stuff on these rides. As a result, they offer complimentary lockers outside of just about all of these large coasters. In Velocicoaster, it's physically inside the queue, so don't worry if you don't see it right away. But places like the Mummy, it's right outside. They are smaller, but we managed to shove our fairly full backpacks in there pretty easily. But if you're carrying a lot of stuff for a family, maybe snacks, maybe you have like 7 water bottles because your kids just really need to be hydrated,
They
you
do.
can,
That's true.
absolutely, safety first. You can rent larger lockers, and that locker rental will be able to transfer. Like you can just buy an all-day locker, and then it's just with your pass, your day pass. So again, very different, but this comes up every single time. And I think since we're talking about attractions and planning your day around it, this is a really important one to
Yeah.
discuss here.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something to note, but also something not to be overly concerned about.
Sure,
Like
right.
like you said, if you end up having to get a bigger locker, it does follow you, which is
Mhm.
a really nice thing because there are some theme parks that exist in the country where that's not the case and you have to purchase a new one for every attraction that you're going on. So it's nice that you can just do a one-time thing and just have that go with you so you don't have to worry about trying to squish all of your stuff. Like you said, water bottles, ponchos, backpacks, snacks, any of that stuff. You don't have to worry about squashing it because the lockers are not super big for full-size
No.
backpacks.
No, we usually bring lounge fly bags.
Yeah, and we manage with those just
Yeah.
fine, but
So I will also bring, so you'll bring your, like, when we say lounge fly for Jess, she'll bring like those little half mini backpacks. I have a larger, it's a Star Wars Loungefly backpack. It is a full-size bag, but I do not have it full with stuff.
Yeah.
It is usually just like a water bottle, some, change of clothes, poncho, my glasses case, stuff like that.
And laying it flat, it just kind of slides right in. And as long as it's not like overstuffed, it's usually okay. So you can make do with the smaller lockers. And each person like riding can get a locker. So it's not just like one per party. Like you scan your ticket and get the locker that way. So that helps too. If you have like a lot of people riding, you can kind of split your stuff up.
Right.
Yes. True. All right. Are we ready to talk about some rides?
We are.
I'm
All
so
right.
All right, so we are going to start in Universal Studios. So to keep these organized, we're going to kind of go in a clockwise, pattern around the park. So mapping it out with Universal Studios, if you walk in that kind of main street that you enter on, just kind of keep following that main path all the way around is how we're going to do it. So the first area that you encounter in the park when you walk right in is Minion Land. This is a pretty recent addition to the park. Just within the last couple of years, they've been kind of constructing it. So this is one of the two.
I'm sorry. I know it feels like it's super duper new, but it's within the last like 15 years, 10, 15
Well, no,
years.
I feel like some of it is
Well,
very.
but yeah.
That's true. You're right.
It was like some of the Minions rides,
That's
but like
They did.
now they're
They did
full.
finish it. You're right.
It's like down like the Monsters Cafe a couple years ago and all that. I'm sorry to. It's a touchy subject.
Get away with
Right.
me.
Because the newest attraction there opened less than 2 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah. The Minion Blaster.
The Villain Con?
Yeah.
I believe you. I have no
Yeah, I
I think
concept
it was
of
like
time
officially
anymore.
Minion Land until very recently.
Yeah. It was like the
There's
last
all
2 years that opened, I want to
I
say.
trust your guys, but
there was
time
always
mine.
like one of the rides was always there. So
Yeah. One of the rides has been there
that's
longer.
right, because
Yeah.
then when they did away with the Shrek, that's what
Yes.
it was. It was Shrek for a very long time,
Yeah.
and then once they did away with Shrek 3D, that's right.
Yep.
So sorry, I lied. We can continue.
You're both
Thank
right.
you
It's
for
okay.
acknowledging.
I was incorrect. I apologize. It will most assuredly not happen again.
So this is one of the two like super family friendly areas of Universal Studios. So there are 2 attractions here, both of which Universal describes as being for everyone, but does note that lap infants are not allowed on these rides. So I know like with a lot of Disney rides, especially the dark rides, you can just like have a kiddo in your lap. Here you cannot. So the 2 rides that are here are Minion Mayhem. So this is a motion simulator. It was once a 3D ride. It is no longer. But it is, kind of that motion simulator kind of ride. And then the next one is Villain Con Minion Blast. So this is a shooting gallery game. Think like Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. And both of these attractions are really some of the most popular in the parks, especially since they are so family friendly.
And they're right at the front. So
I
a
was
lot
just
of
saying, and
people
you're
just
walking.
Right.
Mhm, they walk
they're-
there, they go straight there. So
They're people
Yep.
eaters, absolutely.
100%.
yeah, so I would advise not doing that if I were you, and I would circle back later because the wait times will drop later in the day.
Yeah. Especially if you are going on this as an adult and it's just you're good. Wait until the end of the day.
Right.
But if your kiddos can last through the end of the day, if this is like a family trip, absolutely by the end of the day, those wait times are nothing. They're like walk-ons, even during some of the busiest times of the year.
Mm-hmm. All right. So next we get to one of my favorite areas of the park, New York. So this area of the park for now has Rip Ride Rocket, but that will be closing in August of 2025. So really the only coaster that will be in this area is my personal favorite ride in all of Universal, Revenge of the Mummy. I can't be cool about the Mummy ride. So this ride is themed to the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies, which are some of my favorite movies ever. And this is definitely a thrill ride. So Universal recommends that nobody under 7 goes on, but the minimum height requirement is 48 inches. So, I mean, if you're a parent, you know your kiddos, you know what they'll be afraid of and what they won't be afraid of. There are some kind of like jump scare elements that had my sister-in-law like hit me in the face once, so even adults can be afraid of it.
She jumped.
Just backhanded me.
If she
It's
wasn't
insane.
If she wasn't strapped down, she would have jumped 6 feet in the air, and she just leaned over and just backhanded Jess because she was just flailing in fear.
It's still one of our favorite stories to talk about.
Incredible.
So, you know the people you're with and what they are and are not afraid of. So it's not limited to just kids. And there are some scenes with fire and things like that. So, again, just kind of judge based on what your kids are cool with, and not cool with. But this really is a super fun roller coaster. It's an older ride that's been there, but it's still, kind of stands the test of time and is one of my favorite rides. And like I said, like my favorite ride in the entire park and one of my favorite rides ever.
Yeah, and I would say, just like we've talked about before on Mom Street with Disney rides, watching point of view videos on YouTube of some of these rides is always a really good idea. Even if you don't want to spoil it for your kiddos that are going with you, like you as a parent, I highly
Right.
suggest that you do this just to double check and make sure. Because, for example, I could recommend that somebody ride Remy's Ratatouille Adventure at Epcot. My kids do not like that ride because of the jump scares and the fire and the elements that are in that. So, like, watching that on YouTube would prepare me better to know that,
Right.
like, nope, my kids, that's not their thing. We're not going to worry about that. So,
Yeah.
pulling up a couple point of views on some of these that you're maybe wondering about, especially the dark rides. Some of these coasters are a little more straightforward with some of that stuff, but some of these darker kind of indoor dark ride coaster hybrids are kind of ones that are good to watch on YouTube before you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. All right. So then after the mummy, there are
Once you begrudgingly leave the
once you
mummy.
leave, there is 3 attractions that are all kind of similar between the rest of New York and then going into the San Francisco area. So they'll all just kind of get grouped together. So they're all 4D motion simulator rides. So one is based on the Fast and Furious, one is a Transformers themed ride, and then the other is the Jimmy Fallon. What is it, like the Jimmy Fallon experience?
It's based from New York.
From New York. It's
Mhm.
yeah. Um, so the court of public opinion has ruled that Transformers is the best among the 3. And it's definitely probably the best if you have kids with you. Transformers is definitely something that kids just are more interested in and know more about. I don't know many 10-year-olds that care a lot about Jimmy Fallon. So no offense to Jimmy Fallon. Um,
It's not personal, man.
not personal, but just saying. And the Fast and the Furious one is rumored to possibly be closing in the near future. They just closed the one that's in Hollywood, permanently, and the one in Orlando is closed for a lot of the year because they do close it down and use it as a queue,
For HHN.
in a house for HHN. So, there is the possibility of that. People have been talking about it on and off for quite a while now. So we'll have to just kind of see what happens there. So these rides all have a 40-inch height requirement. And we also discussed this in a previous video, but the Transformers one has a really awesome meet and greet right outside. It's the Optimus Prime.
So there's Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, and Megatron that will meet out there. They seem to usually rotate like throughout the day, but always check the app and you can always ask team members who will be out when. They will have the most up-to-date info.
Yeah. So another thing to draw you and your kiddos to that ride.
The Megatron's the best, man. He's so funny. Cool. All right, so continuing on, once you get past San Francisco, you may see a suspiciously magical looking bus uh, with a man. Oh, another meet and greet, actually.
Yeah.
I forget about that because people don't really talk about it much, but there is, on the night bus, you can meet the night bus driver, Stan. A lot of fun. Just a man with a British accent, honestly. It's pretty fun.
Doesn't he have the little shrunken head
Yes,
with him
there
too?
you go.
Yes, he does have the shrunken head.
Yeah.
And then if you happen to look to your left, you may notice a suspicious looking brick wall, and you can walk right into Diagon Alley. So while there's a ton to take in there, of course, there's the stage show, which we talked about last time in the Christmas theme, but they also have a regular one that they run year round. There's Butterbeer to get in there. There's delicious ice cream, but there's Ollivanders. Oh yeah, the Ollivanders experience. So there's lots to do and see in there. But in terms of attractions, there really is only one, and that is the Escape from Gringotts coaster. So if you look at the Universal website, they classify this as a 4D experience, but it is different from the other 4D ones that we were just talking about, where they're much more motion simulator heavy. This is a coaster on which you wear 3D glasses. So, like, yes, it is technically 4D, but it is distinct from the other 4D attractions.
There's 40 elements because there's like fire and water elements. So like it has that.
It's true, but for anybody who hasn't seen a ride through, you are on a coaster, and much like Guardians, the car will break apart and you look at different show scenes and there's screen elements but also real elements. So this is a 42-inch height requirement, so something to keep in mind. I know a lot of people, I've seen, unfortunately, many a disappointed child near the entrance of Gringotts. So this is a big one because it's so exciting to be in there when your kiddo's a Harry Potter fan. So maybe avoid some disappointment and just double check before you head into the park.
Yeah. And that being said, if you do have a kiddo that's too short to ride any of these, especially the ones that have the really themed and extensive queues, they are welcome to walk the queue with you.
Right.
Yes.
That's always something that they can do. And then just at the end, you just take the exit and the team member will show you where to go. So
Yes, that's very true. And that's actually something that I was going to bring up later with the Hogwarts Castle ride. No, that's fine.
I jumped the gun.
No, you're totally fine. And that's actually super true because Universal does a great job with a lot of their queues. Almost everything has a really interesting, intricate queue.
Yeah.
And so it's fun. It's fun to just see and look through them, and in some cases maybe just get like a hit of air conditioning, right? So like it's totally fair for you to just go through the queue with your kiddo and they can experience that, and then as soon as we get to the end they can just dip out. You just tell the team member.
swap too.
They do. So almost, I think it's almost all of the rides have a rider swap. Certainly all of the coasters do, but most of the rides have.
And I would imagine anything that's got a height requirement has got to have some sort of a rider swap situation going on there. So anything that has that, because what you said, this one is 42. So anything that has some sort of a height requirement is going to have some option for rider swap.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so once you've had your fill of butterbeer ice cream and you've bought 15 wands from Ollivanders, we're going to continue on, and then you're going to hit World Expo, which is an interesting part of the park because it is themed to Men in Black, because there is only, much like Diagon Alley, there's technically only one attraction back here, and that is Men in Black Alien Attack. It's another like shooting gallery type ride where you're in a ride vehicle and you're moving through and you have a fun little laser gun like you're a Men in Black trainee. And then of course things go a little sideways. So this it's a very high capacity ride, so there's hardly ever a wait for it. People like to say it's because it's not popular. Those people are lying. It's because it's got a very high capacity. And it also has stellar air conditioning and a pretty fun queue. It's got some animatronics. Like I don't know if necessarily people who are our age having kids, their kids may have seen Men in Black, but we saw Men in Black a lot growing up. Therefore, it's a fun experience for us.
Yeah.
This does have another height requirement, and it is also 42 inches. And that I'm a little surprised at that, just because the nature of this ride. But I think it's the way that the ride vehicles are designed. I don't think anyone shorter, your feet wouldn't touch the ground of the ride vehicle. So
Yeah, I didn't think about that with a height requirement because it's not a thrill ride. You know what I mean? Like it does kind of spin you and jerk you side to side a little bit, but I feel like no more than something like a Toy Story Mania would, and there's no height requirement on that ride.
yeah.
So interesting. It's got to be something with the construction of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks that there's actually one specific bit at the end that whips you around pretty good, like you're in a teacup ride. And so I think because of like there is the lap bar that you do have, right? You're not just
If you're
sitting
not big enough, you would go
right. You
Get right out of it.
there would just be a kid sailing across the ride, and I just don't think they want that. Yeah.
No, I don't think they want that either.
Okay, so once your child has been launched out of the Men in Black ride vehicle, you can
Not actually if they meet the height requirement.
Oh my God! Please.
Disclaimer.
because this is why height requirements are important.
Right. We are all about safety on this podcast. I am fully joking. Once you are done in Men in Black, you've taken in all the air conditioning you can then move on to Springfield. And Springfield is themed to Springfield from The Simpsons. It's like a carnival area, like a boardwalk type situation. There are 2 rides in here. If you are like me and you have motion sensitivity, they are horrible for us personally.
Oh, no.
This was an attack against me personally, right? So one is a 4D motion simulator ride, and the other is a scrambler ride, which is appropriately named the Twirl and Hurl. So
Great. Love that. That's
yes.
that's a terrible name. Okay,
It surely
continue.
not great. I mean, it makes sense in the theming of The Simpsons, right?
The aliens.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Esoteric.
Yeah. Kang and I can't remember the other one's name. I'm a bad Simpsons fan. But on the bright side, they have tons of carnival games,
Yep.
and there's like lots of fun prizes that you can win. So
Great.
if you're like me and you gotta sit those ones out, there's plenty to do. There's also like a themed food area that has like a bunch of different Springfield themed restaurants and as like a Moe's Tavern and things like that. And if you're like me and a Simpsons fan, they also sell the giant pink frosted donut that Homer eats. So I had it. It was pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay, let's talk about the next area, which I get to talk about because I know things, you guys.
I was like, this feels like the vibe for Jackie. This is perfect.
Let's talk about DreamWorks Land. This is I think the newest area, like full area in any of the parks, aside from Epic, which we'll get to in a
Aside
little
from
while.
whole
The
brand new.
Brand new,
Yes.
you know. And it is the most family friendly area of the park, as everything here is specifically geared towards your younger kiddos. So there are 2 splash pads and little water park areas here, a Pose Kung Fu training camp and Shrek's Swamp for little ogres. So you can tell those are themed perfectly for little kiddos. Now, if you want a space for them to run around, but don't necessarily want them getting drenched or soaked, there's also Poppy's Playground, which is a Trolls themed playground for the little ones to run around there. And if your kids are ready for a family friendly kind of basic coaster experience, there is the Troller Coaster in this
Great.
area,
Amazing
which
name.
we love that name. Amazing. And the height requirement on that is only 36. So very, very accessible for a lot of little kiddos that are ready for that first coaster experience in there. After that, you venture into Hollywood. And the Hollywood area, as of now, the ET ride is the only attraction in the area, and it's really like adjacent to the entrance to DreamWorks Land, so
It's
super close.
Hollywood.
Yes, yes. It's the ET area, basically. So it is a good one to check out on your way to and from seeing Shrek and Poe and the Troller Coaster. The height requirement on this one is 38, so very similar in height to Troller Coaster. But if you've got kiddos that are just tall enough for Troller Coaster, just be aware that it is a 38-inch height requirement for this one. And Universal classifies this as a motion simulator ride. But it's really more of kind of like a tame dark ride because there's I don't know, motion simulator is surprising to me with that one because there are a lot of like audio animatronics and things like that that you experience in the ride. So
I don't think Universal uses the classification of dark ride on
Right.
any of their things because there are things like this that I would call a dark ride
yeah.
and other things too that we've gone through and I would classify them as dark ride, but they just don't. So I think that is the only other option, right? It is they're like,
Interesting.
well, it's simulating you being on a bike and
Close
going
enough.
through the motions. It is a
Right.
motion simulator, right?
There we go.
But but this is not one that you have to worry about motion sickness or feeling any of
Right.
that dizziness that you typically think of with like a motion simulator. It's really just a dark ride. So if you've got a kiddo that likes ET, it's very, very kiddo friendly for those in that sense.
Unless your kid's very afraid of ET.
True. True. You have to kind of know a little bit about that, maybe watch the movie before you come because
Jess is saying that because I was terrified of ET as
I
a
didn't like him
child.
either.
Yeah.
He was so okay. I loved him. Didn't like the neck extension and the scream. Wasn't
Yeah.
for me. Everything else, 100% love that weird little guy.
And I think there are some polarizing opinions on ET. I think there are a lot of people that were sort of traumatized by
Valid.
him because
Mhm.
I mean, when that movie came out, there was nothing like it that existed in the cinematic universes anywhere. So it was kind of this odd little man alien,
Just weird little guy.
Yeah.
Own
So
home.
exactly. So just be aware of that. Maybe
No,
prep
you're
your
good.
kid accordingly because you do visit ET's planet and see other
Many
characters in his species. So
Mhm.
just prepare yourself for that. That being said, with the Hollywood area, what they lack in attractions, they do make up for meet and greets. So just briefly want to talk about that in this area because they are something fun that you can do in that region of the park. So Scooby-Doo and the gang are out in that area. Doc Brown from Back to the Future, Beetlejuice can be found over there. Hello Kitty is now over there. She was relocated from her previous store when they kind of shifted all of that because that's where the Wicked store is now, right?
When
So
they
they
evicted
moved
Hello
her.
Kitty for Elphaba and Glinda's Shiz University dorm. Yeah.
Yep. So again, lots of characters to see. Check your app for those to make sure that you can find who you're looking for or see what your options are. Because there are several others that are little kiddo friendly. Gabby from Gabby's Dollhouse meets over there. There's some others kind of younger geared meet
Yeah.
and greets over there. So definitely check your app or talk to the team members that are in that area.
Yeah, and even sometimes your best bet is to talk to a team member over the app because there are very often, I don't want to call them surprise meet and greets, but like unscheduled meet and greets
Right.
of characters. I don't want to call them rare characters because it's not in the same way that like a Disney would have a rare character, but
Right.
there are characters that don't meet all the time that may just be out on a particularly busy day to try to, gather some of the crowds to sort of alleviate other areas. So, um, just, look around on social media. There's lots and lots of pictures of characters and things like that. And it can't hurt to ask team members all throughout Hollywood if they know if someone's meeting that day.
Exactly. Love it. Okay. I think that wraps up our time at Universal Studios. Let's go to Islands of Adventure.
Let's go on an adventure to an island.
Let's find out what we've got over there.
Crush that transition. We're professionals, people. So, for IOA, for Islands of Adventure, we're going to go in the same clockwise pattern, just, for sake of if you guys are following along at home or you're mentally going through this because maybe you've been there before. So we're going to start at Superhero Island. We're going to go around and end in Seuss's Landing. So, Marvel Superhero Island. There is actually a ton to do here. It is one of the larger areas. It is one of the larger islands in this park, if you will. So there's a superhero parade where the superheroes are on themed four-wheelers, and it's the greatest thing.
What?
It's so funny. It's so funny because you have no idea what's going on, and then all of a sudden this superhero music starts blasting all throughout the area, and you look up and there's Wolverine on a four-wheeler. It's the
I feel like
greatest
it's like a very dated thing. Like
Yeah.
it's just like a relic of like the 90s and it's
I love it.
perfect and
Yeah,
it
that's
never goes away.
amazing.
It never will because they are never giving up anything to do with those rights. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
So in addition to seeing Storm on a four-wheeler, you can also there's also meet and greets, right? So a lot of the classic heroes, you have like Spider-Man, Captain America, Storm, Wolverine. When I was a kid, the Fantastic Four were meeting. They will periodically bring them back, and with the new movie, I suspect they will bring them back again. And you also get villains that you can meet in here. So Doctor Doom and the Green Goblin are the two most common, but occasionally they'll break out somebody else. I've seen like the Hobgoblin and Venom. So I'm going to pick two to talk about in here, and I'll talk about the two biggest ones. Of course, in here you get the Incredible Hulk coaster, and you get the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. So to start with the Hulk coaster, this is a thrill ride. This is a coaster. So it launches, there's loops, like this is a serious coaster. So as such, the minimum height is 54 inches, which is much higher than anything that we've talked about so far. It is a lot of fun. This is actually a fun one to go through the queue of if you have a kiddo who likes the Hulk, because it is as if you're transforming into the Hulk. That's what the theme of this is. And here's a fun fact: Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy wrote the theme music to when they reopened it in 2014. Yeah,
I think that's right.
that sounds true. I'll go with 2014. If I'm wrong, tell me.
I love that. And I don't know how he ended up in that because he also wrote all of the music for the Disney Junior Spidey and His Amazing Friends shows
There's a lot of
too.
composing like
Yeah.
on the side. It's
So like
amazing what he's been involved in.
he's clearly got some in with both sides of Marvel somehow.
Continuing on the theme of Spider-Man, actually, we have The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, which is that very beloved 3D, 4D ride, right? You are going through these different show scenes as you're going on a ride along, with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. you do have 3D glasses. This can make some folks who are sensitive to motion, some people do have a problem. I'm very sensitive to motion and I do not have a problem on it, but that may be because when I was a child, I forced my father to go on it like 10 times in a row. So I think my body just like is good with it, right? Like I just got over the hurdle.
Exposure therapy. It's
That's
great.
right.
You were so excited about Spider-Man, your body was just like, oh, this is fine.
This is cool.
Yeah. I will say on that one, there are lots of jump scares. So just
Yes.
be aware of that, because as much as I was just saying my kids love Spider-Man, that is not a ride that I can take them on because
Yep.
they will not do well with jump scares on that ride. So
Extremely fair. This is another one. There's tons of ride throughs that are available.
Yeah.
So you can, because you are moving through sets. There are fire and some explosions, and it does at one point feel like you're falling. So like absolutely 100% know your kiddo and double check these ride throughs. And it may not even be an issue because this does have a height requirement of 40 inches. So if your kiddo's not quite there yet, maybe next year when they're past that 40-inch mark, maybe they'll be a little bit more
Right.
comfortable with some of the excitement, we'll call it.
right. Or you just have kiddos that are super sensitive to jump scares like
And
mine are, because, my 6-year-old is 49 inches. So, and she's like, she will probably never ride this until she's a teenager.
And that's so fair. Yeah.
Yep.
So once you have decided to leave Wolverine on a 4-wheeler behind, you can move on to it's I don't mean to keep bringing it up, but it was just the craziest thing that I remember that parade from when I was a child and they were still running it.
Yep.
But then we can move on to Toon Lagoon. So Toon Lagoon, as you might have guessed it, is cartoon themed, but it is specifically to like the Sunday Funny comics. So think like Popeye and comics like that. The name just went right out of my head. Mutts, like there's all those.
You're right.
Dudley Do Right, yeah. So there are 2 rides in here. Both of them are water rides. There is Dudley Do Right's Ripsaw Falls, which is a log flume, and you are gonna get soaked. This is a ride where they're just gonna pour buckets of water on you. So just a heads up. Bring a bathing suit or a change of clothes. And then there is Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Rat Barges, which is very difficult to say.
Tongue twister.
It's terrible. And that's like a rapids ride. So you will still get wet on it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, both they're water rides, but like famously Ripsaw Falls, you get absolutely soaked on it. They do have height requirements for both of these. It is 42 for Popeyes and 44 for Dudley. And if you are not interested in either of those, but you have a kiddo that needs to burn off some energy, there's a lovely Popeye themed playground called Me Ship Olive Oil, and your kiddo can just go run around and pretend like they're a ship captain, and it's excellent. I've seen many a child burning off energy there.
All right. So then leaving the kind of comic themed area. Next we hit Kong Skull Island. So this is not really like an area of the park. It's literally just this ride that is there. So this is a ride where you and 20 of your closest friends, or most likely random park goers, get kind of shoved into this Jeep and you drive through Skull Island. So Universal explicitly recommends this one for adults. Older teens might be fine with it, but there is like violence and gunfire and pyrotechnics and stuff like that. So it's definitely recommended for more of an older crowd. And this is one that you're driving through and it's bumpy and all that kind of stuff.
I've been on it once and that was fine, right? Like it was,
Yeah.
it
was a one and done.
It was good. For somebody who really loves King Kong, you would
Right.
love this ride, right? Like it's not even that it's like not impressive because it's a
Right.
good and interesting ride, but the vehicle is pretty uncomfortable because they really jam pack everybody in there and there is a lot of motion. So like when they're recommending this for adults, this isn't like, oh, I'll just bring my kid on it anyway. Like,
Right.
like please make sure, because your child can get squished in the vehicle because there's some harsh turns. Like, please absolutely make sure that your child is probably like a teenager or older. That's
Yeah.
I'm with Universal on this one.
100%. All right. And then the next themed area of the park is honestly one of the coolest, and what me and Duck are repping today is the Jurassic Park themed area. So this really does feel like you're in I can never say this, Island Nublar.
Island Nublar, you got it.
Go.
You did it.
Yay. So there is a lot of stuff for people of all ages in this area. So for the kiddos, there is the Pteranodon. all the dinosaur things confuse me. Flyer. So this is like a sky glide ride, and it lets you get a good look at Jurassic Park. So this ride is explicitly for kids. The minimum height is 36 inches, but this one does have a maximum height of 54 inches. Unless you're like a supervising adult, in which case you can ride the ride with your little one. And then if you are ready for some thrills, there are two kind of more exciting rides in this area. So one is the Jurassic Park River Adventure, which, as you probably guessed, is a water ride. So you kind of gently are floating along a river. You're meeting the dinosaurs. It's so nice. They're so cute. And then things go wrong. Of course they do. But it's a very fun ride. Another one where you might get wet. So if like water rides are not really your thing, maybe one to skip depending on how you're feeling. But this one does have a minimum height requirement of 42 inches.
It's probably akin in the size of the log flume drop to Splash.
Yeah, maybe even smaller.
I would
I feel like if you're not in the very front, you're not gonna get super soaked.
Yeah,
but
it's less. I think the height is the same, but the angle is less dramatic
maybe,
than Splash.
yeah.
Hmm.
So you are still definitely going to get wet, but it is far less violent than going on Ripsaw Falls, in
Right.
which case, like, you are done for, you are getting soaked. This
Yeah,
one, like,
absolutely.
you'll get wet, but I have never walked away from this ride being totally drenched.
Yeah, no. But some people just like can't stand that at all.
So fair.
If
Yeah.
that's you, maybe not the ride for you.
Yeah.
Maybe Velocicoaster will be the ride for you. So that is the next ride in this area. So this is like a coaster for coaster lovers. It is amazing. There's an amazing top hat, lots of airtime, 2 launches, because you're trying to outrun the raptors. So this one is super, super fun. And the height requirement on this one is 51 inches. So I think, is that taller or shorter than Hulk?
Shorter.
It's a little shorter than Hulk.
Hulk
but
was 54. Does that seem true?
That sounds right. Yeah.
I don't know.
We
what
just said it. You think we would remember?
54.
Oh,
Okay.
Hulk is
Yeah.
54,
But
but
it's surprising because I feel like that like there's like a straight like down kind of drop on Velocicoaster and it goes super fast. So I'm like kind of surprised, but
I believe it is the way that the ride vehicles are designed because Hulk is the over-the-shoulder restraints in which you need to be able to sit up taller so your head doesn't bang across them. But it's a lap bar situation for Velocicoaster. So I think they are able to accommodate slightly different sizes. And also Hulk is older and they're also different, not to get too inside baseball, but they're different coaster makers. So as a result, like the way that the vehicles are designed and the sizes that they can accommodate are a little bit different.
very true.
And that is as in depth as I'm willing to go.
For being very normal about that.
You
Thank
did
you
great.
for the knowledge. Thank you so much.
Proud of you. All right. So that is the Jurassic Park area. So now moving on.
Yeah, well, I will say before we move on, there is a really great play area in the Jurassic
Yes.
World area that just want to mention that briefly. So if you've got a wide age range of people that you're traveling with, and you've got some people that want to do these thrill rides, but you've got littles, there's a really great play area in the Jurassic World area that's got, now I will say you have to be willing to follow your kiddo around because it's got lots of little tunnels and smaller spaces.
Yep.
Yes, but it's really fun for kids too. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's also a meet and greet in
There
this
is.
area.
There is. So yeah, so there's
meet the dinosaurs.
so you can meet a couple different dinosaurs, you can meet the raptors. And if you have a kid that's loves dinosaurs but maybe is too freaked out by meeting a live raptor, there is in the area that's attached to what they call it the Welcome Center, and it's meant to look like the Welcome Center in the movie. There is actually an area that a lot of people forget about. It's like an interactive educational play area,
Yeah.
which
Think of,
has
like Epcot.
yeah,
Like some of the
yeah.
areas off the rides.
like when you're walking in Spaceship Earth, when you are exiting, there's like that interactive play area, and you can do different quizzes and things like that. So you can find about like dinosaurs, and you can occasionally maybe catch some egg hatching of some dinosaurs. And there's also like the replica T-Rex fossil skeleton. So all very cool. If you're looking for an area for your kiddos to run around and some air conditioning and much fewer hidey holes in there.
Yep.
yes, good to know. Very well noted. Okay. as we exit the Jurassic area, we are moving back into Harry Potter with Hogsmeade. So once you've said goodbye to the dinosaurs, we're going to head back to the Wizarding World. And Hogsmeade does have a few more attractions than Diagon Alley that we were talking about earlier. The first one being Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, which is your castle ride, right? That's the iconic Hogwarts castle ride that everybody talks about and wants to go on. This is a motion simulator arm ride that brings you through different scenes throughout the castle and the grounds. So it's not a traditional coaster, so to speak. But you are in a vehicle that does move and it does have screens. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 when it comes to the way that the ride operates. It is a 48-inch height requirement for that one. And again, like we talked about, if you are a Harry Potter fan, but you're not so sure you want to ride, or you've got a kiddo who's not tall enough, or you're utilizing ride or swap or whatever it may be, the queue is phenomenal. So be
It's so
sure
good.
to take some time to go through there and check out the theming there for sure. There are 2 coasters in this area as well, the first being the Flight of the Hippogriff. And this is a very family-friendly kiddo coaster that is a really great introduction for your kids to kind of test the waters and see if they're ready for some of those bigger coasters. It is a 36-inch height requirement, so again, very accessible to a lot of younger kiddos. But beware that it's not super large adult friendly. So if you are a taller adult, your knees may suffer after this one.
Ask us how we know.
How do you know that, Duck?
Thank you for asking, Jackie. Well, I didn't realize what the ride was the first time we went there, and I'm like, this is a coaster. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
And then I sat, and then I was like, oh. And then my knees were hitting into the seat in front of me, and I was like, oh. And then I got off the ride, and I was bruised.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a tight fit, but it's worth squeezing in once because it's so cute. It's such a great fun little ride to see Buckbeak the hippogriff and kind of look around in that area. Some fun little creatures on that ride.
For sure.
Yeah.
But if you want to look for more creatures, oh, look at that segue. That was a good one. You can visit also in this area Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure, which is the longest name, but everyone just calls it Hagrid's. This is a wonderful coaster. It is very smooth experience. And a lot of people really enjoy it. It's super fun because the ride vehicles are like Hagrid's motorbike. So you're either riding the bike or you're in the sidecar. So fun to kind of experience both if you're able to ride it more than once, which it does have a very long queue. Or a very long wait time in their queue. So keep that in mind that that's typically one that you're going to want to make some plans to be able to go on. It was recently added to Express, which is great news for those who
Yeah.
may have Express. It recently was added, so that is a plus with that.
The
It is
queue is really nice for this one, though.
yes. Yeah,
A lot of
definitely a good
creatures as you're
a
going
good
through
theme.
and stuff like that. So yeah.
For sure. So then this one has a 48-inch height requirement. So again, a little bit taller, but still fairly accessible. 48 inches is what a lot of the Disney coasters are. So very, very in line with that when it comes to that.
Through all these conversations, I'm realizing I have no idea how tall children are at what age. because you were like, oh, my 6-year-old's 49. I was like, well, I wouldn't have guessed that's the right height for a 6-year-old to be.
Yeah, she's a little on the taller side probably. But I would say anywhere between 6 and 8 is going to be that 48-inch height requirement, depending. My 8-year-old is also tall. He's like 54.5 inches, so he can ride a lot of the bigger coasters now, which is just like mind blowing to me. But we're doing some trial coasters that we're fairly close to Kings Island here in Ohio, so we're doing some trial coasters there before we venture to Universal and some of these other big coasters.
Maybe
see
one of
how
these
he
days
does.
we can meet in the middle at Hershey Park.
I know. Hershey Park has been on my list of places I want to get back to. I used to go as a kid when I lived in Pennsylvania when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. So really want to take my kids eventually. So we'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, so that is everything with
Real
Hagrid.
quick before we
Yes.
move to the next area. We could have talked about this with either park, but I feel like the Hogwarts Express is worth mentioning as like an
Yes.
attraction. So if you have like the park to park ticket that allows you to go on the Hogwarts Express. You can take that to go between Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. So especially if you're a big Harry Potter fan, you have a kiddo who loves Harry Potter, it really is just like the experience of like riding to Hogwarts from the movie, and then it lets you out at the train station right by Diagon Alley. So something else cool to do, worth mentioning.
Not only is it worth mentioning, it is also worth it if you are trying to do both parks in one day. It cuts out a whole lot of walking
Yeah.
because you are just immediately in the back of the park. So
Yeah.
it is perhaps a worthy investment. Not only is it cool,
Right.
it's smart planning. That's what
And
we're
it's-
here for, folks. These
and it's-
tips.
Look at that. And it's a different experience both ways.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind too. If you take it one way, it's worth it to try to time it to then also take it back the other way because you'll have a different experience if you do it that way. Too.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. Something worth mentioning as we exit the Harry Potter area over here is that there is an area, the Lost Continent, that is between these two lands, but it no longer houses any attractions, rides, anything there. So we're going to kind of, unfortunately, skip over that and keep moving on, much to Duck's dismay, it seems.
Rip Poseidon.
I'm-
It was a fun area. It's cool. I like the theming. It felt unique, and it feels like it was original to IOA. So I really like it because it just feels like it comes from an era of theme parks where things were very heavily focused on being original in their designs and concepts and ideas. And there was a coaster in there called Dueling Dragons. It's actually now where Hagrid's is. And so I just really liked the theming of the area, and it felt like it just came from a different time in theme park development. So I'm sad to see it go, but I am excited that hopefully it will be utilized for something fun and new.
Yeah, there's been lots of rumors circulating about what's going to go there, but nothing officially announced from Universal. So, like I said, hopefully we'll hear something about that because I think it's disappointing when you're walking around the park to leave such a nice themed area, and if you head towards that direction to get like to Seuss Landing, it's like what?
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
jarring.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there definitely needs to be some work done in that area, but that's okay. Theme parks can all be a work in progress. We can appreciate what Universal has been doing. We know that they've been busy. So
They gave me a whole werewolf coaster. They can take their time with the Lost Continent, okay?
so true. So that being said, once you wander through the Lost Continent, you will enter Seuss Landing, which much like DreamWorks Land, there we go, is totally geared towards kiddos and adults who love Dr. Seuss as well. This area is just so well themed and so cute. You really do feel like you're walking straight into a Dr. Seuss book. It's wonderful. You've heard us talk about this in our previous episode when we talked about all of the holiday. Holiday? Is that what it was called?
Yep.
Holiday, holiday, that whole thing. Yes, that, and the Grinch and all that. So this is that area. There are several things here that actually have no height requirements, which is what makes it so family and little kiddo friendly. The carousel and One Fish, Two Fish ride. Think that one's kind of like Magic Carpets and at Magic Kingdom. And then the carousel is a fun little carousel with Seuss-like creatures that you can ride on there, which is also very fun. There is the famous or infamous, depending on your opinion, Cat in the Hat ride. That ride does have a 36-inch height requirement and is a little bit of how do I put this nicely? It's a little wild in there, and it's a little bit of
Fever dream.
a fever dream. Yes, that's a very good way to put it. But yes, it is still very much a fun ride nonetheless. And they also have a little playground area over there that is themed from the If I Ran a Zoo. Fun little area to run, jump, and spin. They've got lots of different places to explore in that area as well. So definitely a super fun area for your little kids and kids at heart that love Dr. Seuss. And that being said, I think that is the end of our IOA time.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to what everybody I feel like is talking about now when it comes to Universal Epic Universe? Let's hear about that.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm sorry not to cut you off, but it's so popular. My mom wants to go with us. She's like,
I
that.
want to come with you.
Yeah.
We're going in August. Okay.
I was like, yeah, Ma, you should. Let's go, Debbie. Get in that car. Let's go.
I am dying to hear about Debbie's opinions when you come back because we all know how opinionated she can be.
Debbie has strong and usually correct opinions.
There we go. I'm excited to hear about it. So let's hear about what Debbie's going to experience
Yes.
in Epic Universe.
So we will start off with Celestial Park. So this is a whole area that is themed to the cosmos. And so the attractions are also themed accordingly. So one of the attractions is the Constellation Carousel. So this is a classic carousel, but all of the little vehicles that you ride on are themed to zodiac animals. So this one doesn't have a height requirement, so it's a good option for everybody.
And I also just want to say it's beautiful. I am now starting to see more and more people post about it, which is I'm so happy because it is just gorgeous. Even if you are not like a carousel person, I think everyone should ride this just to experience how like very well done and well designed this is.
Yeah, and I didn't realize until recently that it's got a rotating playlist. So you get a different song depending on when you ride. So that just makes the re-rideability fun to kind of experience the different vibes with the different songs.
Yeah, and I know that whoever designed that is a parent who has had to take their child on a carousel multiple times in a row, and I'm like, I know who this was designed for, and I can really appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, that is one that like I am excited whenever I get to Epic Universe to go on because I just think it looks so fun.
It's gorgeous, it's really fun, and it's again just like those little things. Like they could have just done one song and it still would have been cool, but
Right.
but the idea of the rewritability and the investment that they put into everything in Epic, it really shows through.
For sure.
Absolutely. And then the next ride is Stardust Races. So obviously we have not made it to Epic Universe yet, but from what we've been seeing online, this looks like another big hit with coaster fans. So some people are saying that it rivals Velocicoaster, so we'll have to be the judges.
Them's just fighting words.
Then the words. So the big draw for this one is that these are dueling coasters. So for anyone who doesn't know, that means there's two tracks of the coaster that are intended to launch at the same time, or shortly after each other. And then there are areas where they will kind of cross over each other. So it feels like you're racing or challenging the other side of the coaster. So this one has a 48-inch height requirement. And I'm really excited for this one, especially since they used to have the dueling coaster over in IOA and now, they have one again. So
Rip Dueling Dragons.
So then we move on to Super Nintendo World. So there are two big ticket rides in here. So one is Minecart Madness. This is themed to Donkey Kong. So from what we've seen, this is a good like midpoint kind of coaster. So if you have a coaster fan who isn't super ready for like the big ones, TM, this is a thrilling but approachable option for them. And obviously who doesn't like Donkey Kong. So this one has a 40-inch height requirement. And then the other ride in this area, or well, not just the other ride, but the other kind of like big ride is Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge. So this is pretty much what it sounds like. It is a Mario Kart simulator. So it's like a 3D, 4D experience and you're racing around Rainbow Road. Hopefully you can't fall off of it because
That's what I do when I do Rainbow Road.
I don't know. We were flinging kids in Men in Black. I don't know. I don't know why Rainbow Road would be any different.
Right. So this one has a 40-inch height requirement. And then there is also an Omnimover Dark Ride, which is Yoshi's Adventure. And this one has a 34-inch height requirement, but it sounds super cute. I love it.
Oh my gosh, and it looks so cute.
It looks adorable. I'm very into the Yoshi's Adventure Ride. That might be one of the ones that we like sprint to
Absolutely.
because of the Omnimover, it suffers from the same problems that like the Haunted Mansion and things like that do.
Mhm.
Where like when it goes a little sideways, it can go sideways for a couple minutes. So it's a pretty high capacity, and it seems like most days it's been moving. Not that I've been stalking the wait times on the app or anything.
You're normal.
It seems like thank you so much. It seems like most days it's been working pretty well, but sometimes you see the wait times kind of creeping up. But so this might be one where if you think maybe it's a long wait now, maybe come back a little bit later and wait until it's starting to move again. There's plenty to do and see and themed treats and games and whatnot around.
Right.
So
Yeah, well, and I will say that with specifically the Super Nintendo area, I have not been to Epic Universe, but I have been to the Helios, which is the resort that is attached to Epic Universe. And so I have looked from afar and seen into some of these portals. The Super Nintendo World area is unreal. It looks like you have physically transported into either the movie, if you're a Super Nintendo, the Mario Brothers movie that just came out not that long ago, or just the video game. It is massive in scale. It is unreal. And I know that people have experienced this out in California. I didn't watch any of that stuff because I live in Ohio. Like it
Get out of here, California.
but seeing it even just from the Helios area was just mind-blowing to see it. So it's they went above and beyond and just blew it out of the water with that area.
It feels like all of Epic is it is one thing to look at it through a screen and see how cool it is, and I can already sense it will be a not to be dramatic, a life-changing experience too, right? I mean, like the first time that I went to Pandora in Disney, I literally felt like I was on an alien planet, and it
Right.
seems like that sense of wonder and that sense of feeling and the dedication to detail
Yeah.
is all here, and I have a very strong feeling that I when we finally get to experience it,
Yeah.
it's really going to be something to behold, truly.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's hear about the next portal tech because I know this is the one you're excited to talk about. Let's
Yes.
talk about Dark Universe.
Okay, so speaking of places that I will lose my mind when I finally get to experience it, I want you to know I'm almost certainly going to cry walking into a Dark Universe. There's a non-zero chance I'll be so overwhelmed I cry. So, there are 2 rides in here. There's more to see and do, of course, just like everywhere. There's different food-themed places, and there's, like, walk-around characters. For now, TM, we'll see how Igor does, but for now, there's walk-around characters. But there really are 2 ride experiences in here. So the first one up is, Monsters Unchained: The Frankenstein Experiment. I have been saying violently spoiler-free for this, so I'm going to give you the synopsis as given to us by Universal, so I'm not finding out any more than I need to know.
Perfect.
So essentially it is Dr. Victoria Frankenstein continues the work of her ancestors deep below the family estate. A demonstration of her experiments to control monsters goes awry when Dracula leads a revolt of enraged monsters, including the Wolfman, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and more. This is so cool looking from the animatronic previews that I've seen. This is one, along with, like we were saying before, the Harry Potter ride. I think this is one that even if you're not interested in necessarily riding it, you absolutely should go through the pre-show area because the things that they've done and the theming from the little bit that I've gotten spoiled, it's all just so incredible. It really is so impressive. You feel like you are in a manor with an actual scientist lady speaking at you. Like it's unbelievable. And also related to the Forbidden Castle ride, or sorry, Forbidden Journey, the castle ride. That's what I'm gonna call it. The castle one. This is another. It's the same ride mechanism where it's like the motion arm that will bring you through. Same company, same exact ride vehicle.
Yeah, and that being said, I will say that from what I've been told and seen, that although it is the same mechanism as the Harry Potter ride, this ride itself is actually a slower moving one. So it's not as quick to move you from scene to scene. So if you're someone who's concerned about knowing that for motion sickness, I've been told that it's much tamer and a much smoother, slower experience. Our good friend Kirk at Walrus Carp has kind of explained it that way, and he is very much a theme park expert when it comes to all of those things. So keep that in mind and maybe give it a try if you're on the fence about that.
That's actually really good because I sometimes have struggled with the castle ride before. Just like on days where maybe I've done something else that kind of made me feel a little motion sicknessy. And I was a little concerned for this, but this makes me feel so much better that I will get to enjoy my spooky monster ride in peace.
Yes, I felt like that was an important note and still spoiler free because I do not want to spoil anything for you.
It is perhaps the most important note that I've been given. I'm so happy. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
So other than the Monsters Unchained, we have the Curse of the Werewolf coaster. So this is the closest Disney analog that I could give to this would be like Guardians of the Galaxy, or even to make a Universal comparison, this would be like a Gringotts-ish because it is a rotating ride vehicle. So you are on the coaster and the coaster will spin to show you different scenes. It is important to note that there are actually like it's 4 seats, but it's a set of 2 back to back. So as you're going through the coaster, you may see different show scenes depending on where you are in the cart order and what side of the cart that you are on. So this is very much a ride that has a ton of rewritability. If you are, if you love it enough, as I know that I will, we'll be going on it several times. But just like we were talking about before with the carousel and the music swapping, just another interesting choice that Universal made, so that this is definitely a ride that you can ride a few times. So there is a 40-inch height requirement. But if you're over 40 inches and your kiddo seems like they would like it, or you seem like you would like it, you have to ride it legally. It's a werewolf
It's a
roller coaster.
requirement.
You have to. If you're
Duck will come and arrest
if
you.
you are, I will. Citizen's arrest. If you are listening to this podcast, you are legally required, if you go to Epic Universe and you can deal with coasters and you're of the appropriate height, you must ride the Wolfman coaster. Great, thank you.
Anyway,
So glad we
moving
set the
on.
boundary. Okay, so once you have decided to leave the spooky Darkmoor Castle area, you can then head over into the slightly less scary Ministry of Magic area for the Harry Potter for the Wizarding World area. There is one ride in here. Probably forever there will only be one ride, but there is room for them to expand. There was rumors of multiple rides. We'll see how the future goes because they just opened. So this is, of course, the extraordinarily popular Battle at the Ministry. So this is another motion simulator ride. You are traveling via Flu Network to see Umbridge's trial, and of course, something goes a little sideways. Like I said before, this has been all over social media. This is without a doubt the most popular ride in the park, and the wait times have been pretty crazy on some days. So just something to consider, to plan your day around. Keep an eye in the couple days leading up. Keep an eye on the wait times. Try to get a feel for when it's a little bit less, and whatever you personally, are comfortable waiting. I know we have like a hard limit of like 45 minutes ish to an hour, depending on how much we want to ride something. Other than that, like, I don't know. It just depends. That's just what we can tolerate, right? So everyone has
Yeah.
different limits.
This one seems to be extremely popular early in the day. Like everyone heads there first, and then it does tend to taper off from what I've seen. Now, that may change in the coming weeks as capacity in the park increases, because for the first several weeks of the park being open, they were still doing a more limited capacity, even though it was open to the public. They just weren't selling as many tickets to just try to kind of stair step that capacity to make sure that
Yeah.
the park can handle the crowds. But this does seem to have the really, really high 300-minute wait right off the bat, and then it does tend to taper as the day goes. But that depends on downtime and crowd levels and all that good stuff. So
Yeah. So very much in the days leading up, just keep an eye on it. See generally maybe for the crowd level of the week that you will be going. Just keep an eye and see when the best time to go is. This is also a 40-inch height requirement, so not super high, but it might be high enough that if you have a kiddo who really loves Harry Potter, again, recommend going through the queue, because again, we're trying to stay mostly spoiler free on this, but from what we've seen, incredible queue.
Yeah.
So definitely something, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you want to experience, but you can always just dip out at the end. And if rides aren't your thing, or you don't want to wait that 300 minutes, there's of course lots to do in here, lots to shop and see and whatnot, but there is another attraction in here. It is Le Cirque Arcanus. So it is a stage show that is basically supposed to be like a wizard circus. So it is weird and it is wonderful, and there's lots going on. There's music, there's pyrotechnics, there's acrobatics. It's a whole thing. So yeah, that is a good alternative, and is a fairly high capacity show too. So
yeah, keep an eye on the show times for that though, because they were using that queue as overflow for Battle of the Ministry for a while. So they were like, some of the show times got displaced because of that. I don't know if that's still the case, and I don't know if that will be the case moving forward, or if they've come up with a better solution to that. But once Ministry of Magic went off of that virtual queue, which it was during previews, some of the overflow ended up over in, I think it's Le Cirque Arcanu is technically the
ooh,
pronunciation for that. So
that's right. So
um,
French, my
I
bad.
know it is so French. So just keep an eye on the show times for that, and maybe that might be one that you might need to ask the team members in the area to find out for sure if shows are running or not, if that's still the case. Like I said, it may have changed.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I wonder if that will be a long-term solution because that does totally kneecap their show, which would be the other like people eater.
Right.
So I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know that they'd keep that long term, but
I don't
I'm not a
either.
park
And I
designer.
think they weren't sure how to anticipate because the queue for Ministry is so immersive. No spoilers. I'm not going to talk about any of that. But because it's so immersive, people are taking a lot longer to get through the first part of the queue.
Ah,
And it's taking them longer to get into the second part, which is more standard queue like, if that makes sense, because the first part of the queue is a little more open-ended for wandering. So I think
Interesting.
that was part of them trying to figure out how this queue is going to work going forward. And they may have solutions now at this point, and maybe they're not utilizing that show queue anymore. But again, I do know that was something that happened within the kind of weeks after, before and after opening, once, excuse me, once that virtual queue went away.
it's
I
also
have
brand
to say that.
new.
Yes. Yes. So definitely. But again, just something to keep an eye on. Wait times, keep an eye on what the line is doing for all of the experiences in that area, just to give yourself a better chance of being able to see the show and do the ride both in that space.
For sure.
Perfect. So as we leave the Ministry of Magic and the Paris 20s, I think is what it's supposed to be,
That sounds
of
true.
the ministry and all of that good stuff. Let's head over to Isle of Berk. This area is another amazingly themed space from Universal. It has a number of attractions for all ages. And as the two most popular since opening are Fire Drill and Hiccup's Wing Gliders. So both of those are very, very popular. This area of Epic Universe is definitely the most developed. They've got the most kind of in that space. So with Fire Drill, it is an interactive water boat ride. So essentially, you are training with two of the characters from How to Train Your Dragons, Rough Nut and Tough Nut, and you board their boat and try your best to shoot the targets with your water guns. But be careful because the dragons, they love to splash. There is no height requirement on this one, but I have seen people come off of this absolutely drenched. So that is definitely a possibility with this one. I don't know that it's every time, but there is a very high chance of you getting absolutely drenched on this ride.
It appears to be a feature, not a bug, of how you and your boat participate in this ride to see how soaked you end up getting, because there is some interactive elements to it. So it is you are at the mercy of your fellow trainees.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So choose wisely who you go on the ride with, I guess,
Right.
Yes. The other ride in this area is Hiccup's Wing Gliders. And on this one, you are going to train to be a dragon rider with Hiccup's latest contraption, which is, it's not explicitly called like a coaster and a family coaster, but it's pretty darn close when it comes to all of that. And it is another good intro attraction for kiddos who like a thrill and maybe are testing the waters with bigger coasters. With a 40-inch height requirement on this one, it's definitely a good option for your little thrill seekers that are testing the waters when it comes to coasters.
We also didn't originally include this in here, but I do just want to note there is like a kiddo playground area in here that is, I think it's themed to like Viking training.
Yes.
I know we didn't really talk about it. There is one other like a splash pad type in Celestial Park, but other than that, these are really the only two like playground-ish type areas that are in Epic. So just a heads up for anybody who is maybe has a couple kids that are in varying ages, these areas are kind of gonna be your friend for getting some energy out.
Also, all of Super Nintendo World,
Oh,
because you
for
can just
sure.
run around and hit the question mark blocks.
Right, it's all
and
very interactive.
It is,
Yeah.
all of Super Nintendo World is a playground.
It's a giant playground.
So
Yeah,
true.
exactly.
That's so true.
Yes.
But I don't know that Darkmoor has a playground.
I don't think so.
I don't
I
think so.
don't anticipate that being a feature of Darkmoor anytime now or in the future.
What if I wrote a strongly worded letter for any of our future children?
Maybe. They might. Yes, they might. And yes, Jules in our chat does bring up a good point that they do have another ride in the Berk area that is Dragon Racers Rally. Again, we were just kind of highlighting some of them, but that is another ride in that area as well. So
I also
did not hit
Sorry.
everything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just that one it's actually really hard to explain what it
Yeah.
is also in a podcast. It's like, you'll know what it is when you see it. It's called a sky, I forget exactly what they classify it as, a sky something ride, but that is another one that is, I think they have a shorter height requirement too, so that is another option if you have some smaller kiddos. I think it might be 38. That sounds true.
Okay. Yeah, that one is like, it is kind of hard to explain until you've actually seen it function. So, if you're curious about that one, do a quick Google search, YouTube search, and look that up because it's a rotating ride that you're dangling from in your ride vehicle, but your ride vehicle also moves independently from the arms that rotate you. It's
Yeah.
very interesting.
There's nothing quite like it that I could
No.
compare it to, right? Like everything else I kind of had an analog. Like
Right.
this I don't have any other explanation. Like it
No.
you kind of move up and down and the wings flap and you're being spun around, but you're not. Like, I don't know. It's very this is one, and I couldn't understand what the website was trying to explain this to
Yeah.
me until I just looked up a POV
Right.
and it made total sense.
It's like, imagine like a scrambler ride, but they flip it upside down.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
probably the best way to describe because it spins and spins, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of go up and down, like as you're
Mhm.
soaring through. It's like a wave motion.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
so true. But yes, that is the other ride in the Isle of Berk area. And again, like Duck mentioned at the beginning of this, we did not go over every single ride in these areas or every single attraction for any of the parks. There are probably more things that you may be needing to do some research on if you are planning a Universal trip. That is something that we highly suggest you do. Or if you need more information or you're like, I need to know more about X, Y, and Z, again, reach out to us, momstreetusa@gmail.com, or find us on various social media platforms at momstreetusa. On those, we are happy to help you. If you need help planning and figuring out what rides are good for you and your travel party, we are more than happy to do that with you for both Universal and Disney, but primarily we're talking about Universal for this one. Perfect. Well, I think that kind of brings our Fast and Furious, I did it again, attraction kind of rundown for you. Hopefully you found that helpful. Hopefully that gives you some good insight for your travel party. If you are going to be going to Universal or considering going to Universal, it gives you an idea of maybe what's good for your kiddo. That being said, Universal does have more thrill rides and a few more height requirements than Disney does. But as you can see, there are still a lot of kiddo-friendly places at these theme parks. As a mom, I looked at a lot of this previously and I said, for my family, I'm going to wait until my kiddos are a little bit taller than what they were at the time that I was looking, simply because I've got thrill seekers. And if they see these attractions and they're not tall enough to ride them, they're going to be upset. So that was the decision that I made. Now that my youngest is over 48 inches, it's a reconsidering factor for us knowing that she'll be able to ride a lot of the bigger thrill rides that she sees, and we will avoid a lot of the meltdowns that would have happened previously. So your travel party, your kids, your teens, whoever it is that you're going with, to know kind of the rundown that we gave you today on whether or not these attractions are good fits for you.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we talk about what's coming up next?
I think the only thing that I want to say is a resounding good job to Universal. It's clear, you can tell that
Right.
that unlike some other theme parks that we've been to, and this isn't, I'm not like throwing shade at Disney specifically. I know we talk about Disney a lot on the other podcast, on this podcast, but we go to a lot of
Yeah.
theme parks in general. So it's very clear to me that Universal learns in a way that a lot of theme parks do not, right? You can see, because they built studios first, they built it, it was the big, the bad, the fast, the interesting. And then they were like, well, we're losing a smaller, like the younger kid customer base to Disney. So when they built Islands of Adventure, there was much more variety in the type of ride, in the accessibility of the ride. They put a playground or some sort of child-friendly activity in every single area. And so they now took those lessons that they've learned from adding the DreamWorks land in Universal Studios, some of the updates that they've done to IOA recently, and it's clear that they really cared going into Epic that
Right.
everybody has a great experience, no matter the age range, right? So I just, not to overly praise a corporation or anything, but I am actually very impressed with all of the designers and all of the work that have gone into making Epic what it is, and that it is sort of like this true like final form of a theme park, that they really took all the lessons in making interesting, unique, and widely appealing rides, and they put it all in one park. So I hope that this episode was helpful and really helped you understand that there is a variety, and broke maybe that stigma that people
Right.
have, where Universal is just for thrill seeking or older kids, and there's not much there if that doesn't fit us. So I hope everyone who maybe was on the fence reconsiders and enjoys Universal, because obviously we both really love it.
Yeah.
It's just one of our favorite, theme parks in general. So yeah, I hope this was helpful to everybody.
Yeah, that being said, I do think that something about Universal that differs from Disney is I think that Universal, you get much more bang for your buck when you do multiple park ticket days. Like, so when you have like what we consider a park hopper from Disney, purchasing something like that at Universal, I think is in your best interest if you've got varying age ranges that you're traveling with, because then you do have the ability to make sure everybody is getting a little bit of everything. I think that is a very big benefit of something that you can do at Universal to kind of maximize that. Disney, you find it a little bit more kind of contained park to park where they have that wide age range and different activities to do. But I think with Universal, it's a little bit more big picture when it comes to things for little kids and things for thrill seekers. You might need to do both Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure in a day to kind of please everyone. So keeping that in mind, I think can be beneficial as well if you're looking to plan a Universal trip.
Agreed. And we'll happily help you. Just ask us.
We sure will. Yes. That being said, let's talk about what we're going to talk about next, because we're not quite done with Universal.
Nope.
We've got one more episode for now in this series that we've been doing here with Duck and Jess. And we are going to be talking about food at Universal in our next episode and focusing on family friendly options and kind of how that works. Because the way that food works is a little bit different at Universal when it comes to like mobile ordering and table service versus quick service and things like that. So we want to kind of go over that a little bit just to make sure that you guys have a heads up on that. So that is next with Duck and Jess, but that will be a few episodes in the future here as we go through our rotating schedule at Mom Street. Our next episode for Mom Street USA will be a solo episode for me, and I'm going to be talking about what is in my park bag. So talking about Disney park bags, kind of from the mom perspective, what to bring, what saved your day, what I'd never bring again, and also talking a little bit about child-friendly backpacks and what might be a good intro to kiddos carrying their own stuff in the parks. So that is the next episode of Mom Street USA. But for now, we will put a pin in Universal. And we will see Duck and Jess again very soon. And as always, if you've got information you want us to cover or ideas or thoughts about the episodes that we've been doing and future episodes, please reach out to us. I think I've said it multiple times already in this episode, but we are momstreetusa@gmail.com. You can also find us on various social media platforms. And if you are a Discord user, we do have a channel on our good friend Kirk at Walrus Carp on his Discord. The link to all of that is in our Mom Street USA social media bios. So if you need to find us on there, if that's an easy way for you to do that, you can reach out to us and find that through the link in our bio.
Good stuff.
Yeah, love it. All right. Well, that all being said, thanks for being here. We appreciate you watching and hanging out, and we will catch you on the next episode of Mom Street USA. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Hi, everyone.